Why, hello there everyone. I'm Laxow, aka the Kumo Sensei, and I'm officially back. 皆さん、おはようございます。有种历史的。And I've basically said on my last video that I'm basically retiring from mainstream tarantula breeding and really just going back down to being a normal, typical tarantula hobbyist. And I have to say, it took quite a bit of convincing from some tarantula breeders and some other tarantula hobbyists, but I'm officially back. A lot has happened, and this video is late, but I do have some reasons as to why that is. So, a lot of personal things have happened, and basically I'm back at my parents' home for basically the rest of the year, maybe a bit more into early next year, just until I can get things going again. But during that time, allow me to discuss what has happened. So some things happened to me both mentally, emotionally, physically, and basically my life has been challenged quite a bit. There were some drawbacks, but nothing like crazy bad, just drawbacks that happened, a couple steps back. But if you know me, you always got to keep going forward. So let us discuss about why I'm coming back. So the original plan that I had was to basically settle down to a new place and basically start my voice acting stuff and try to get things going in a new direction. But, I had a couple of setbacks, and my voice acting stuff, I'm still continuing it, but a little bit at a time till I can pick myself up again. And originally, I've basically downsized my collection by about 80 to 90%, so a lot of the tarantulas that you see in my videos, a lot of them have been rehomed, or a lot of them have been given away to other tarantula breeders and hobbyists around my area. So basically, now that I was basically back to being a typical tarantula hobbyist at that time, but what ended up happening during that period was that, sadly, a couple of tarantula businesses actually went out. Basically, they shut down, and there was actually no suppliers whatsoever. These businesses were basically wholesale businesses, and it was really sad to see them close after about 5 years for some, 3 years for others, but around 5 to 7 businesses either stepped back or they shut down completely. And this basically left an open gap, and I originally thought that this would be a great opportunity for these upcoming tarantula breeders to actually produce something and maybe become new tarantula suppliers and basically dabble into the market. But as you can see, that didn't happen because I'm announcing my return. And so some things did happen during that time of people trying to convince me to come back. There was a reptile business that did reach out to me saying they want to hire me for my expertise, and the offer they made, I said no, because in my personal opinion, the offer they made wasn't really justified. But if I was to be hired, I would be part of that team. And basically they were going to put me as their team lead when it comes to their tarantulas and their spider person. But I said no, and then they did make an offer to buy out my Monocentropas balfours, all of them, for $6,000, $6,000. And I said no because, in my personal opinion, I don't think they're that cheap, especially because basically I have so many balfouri to where I don't really necessarily need to buy any more new bloodline, because that's how many I have. So I don't think it was worth $6,000 that they offered to me. So I still have my balfours, and I said no. And I don't say this to be mean, but it's just not for me, I would rather just keep to myself and not work for another team. But maybe someday in the future, who knows. But as of now, I'm fine the way I was. But as you know, the hobby, a lot of people, they just, kept trying to push me back in. And eventually, what really turned it back around to where I finally decided to get back in was that there was actually an Asia import, and a lot of cool Asian species came in. So you have stuff like, the Ho Chi Minh tarantulas, Nindep, and basically Ratchaburis, a lot of these cool localities and things like that. And it really kind of drew me back in, because really what happened was that when the imports came in, I was impressed, but I wasn't really, I wasn't really feeling it, as in I wanted to come back. But some people, or a couple to a few people, reached out to me to basically ID and identify what tarantulas was bought in, because when it comes to Asian tarantulas, specifically the undescribed localities, a lot of these do look alike, so they were just basically hitting me up through emails asking for my expertise, sending in pictures, and basically that's what I was doing, just identifying tarantulas to help out people. And it's kind of funny, I actually did bought a couple of these imports myself. And I don't usually support wild-caught imports, but you know, sometimes you just really have to just buy it and do the work yourselves. So I bought about 5 of these, 8. I don't remember how many I bought, just a small lot of them, and I ended up with some interesting tarantulas that were misidentified. So I've basically ended up with almost every single one of them being Sauropogopius species Bacama, and out of the lots, surprisingly, one of them was actually a Ho Chi Minh tarantula, so that was very interesting. The Orphanictoctonus species Ho Chi Minh, DCF, or dark color form I believe is what it goes by. And it is a female, so I could use a male in the future, because this specimen actually molted in my care, and I did sex it as a female. In the future, if a male comes by, I would be grateful. I'm going to use all of these as a future breeding projects. There was more stuff I got, but those are for future investments because they're only slings. And it was very interesting because, you know, after buying that lot, I told, you know, a couple of people that I was interested in coming back, and immediately, I mean like immediately, everyone was like, okay Laxow, we're going to help you find whatever you find interesting. So they did not buy anything from me, but rather there was basically sourcing tarantulas that I would be interested in, and I said, go at it. So as what tarantula breeders do, they know the market, and they source, you know, really good tarantulas for me for really good prices. And I did acquire some amazing things, but they're mostly slings, some pairs, and things I can't show. So the reason why is because when I bought it from them, they were like, Laxow, I appreciate that you're coming back, you know, breeding for us, but please don't show what you got. And I guess it's for personal reasons, I guess, or maybe conflict of interest, but I am going to respect their decisions. So I'm not going to be showing what I got, and maybe in the future I will if they will allow it. But as of now, let's just say I've gotten some things, and we just kind of had to wait and see if it proves out, you know? So one of the goals I told everyone, you know, all the tarantula breeders and hobbyists when I came back through emails, is that if I'm coming back, one of the things I gotta do is basically transition all of my adult tarantulas into glass enclosures. So that's what you're seeing now. So you were just hearing me talking about how I got back. So now allow me to explain what you're seeing, which is me building these enclosures. So these are all prototypes. They're not final, and yes, they're flawed. Like, you can watch this and pretty much already notice that they're not perfect, but they'll get better with time because these are just, you know, the first prototypes. So with time, these will be perfected if I can have the time, because really it was difficult getting this video out because my work schedule is basically a 9 to 5. So it was hard finding time to actually record and actually having time to edit and post this video. But the goal is to basically transition 90 to 100% of my adult females into glass enclosures. This will take time, so due to my basically, you can say 9 to 5 job eating up a lot of time, the goal is to build at least 10 to 20 adult enclosures a month. I know that don't sound like a lot, but for adult enclosures and how slowly I'm growing my collection, this is more than plenty for me, because by the end of the year, that will be essentially 120 glass enclosures minimum, and I'm not going to have that many adult females by the end of the year, or end of 1 year that is. So you viewers understand where I'm coming from. I'm just trying to slowly get there to where I need to be, not trying to rush all of it at once, especially since my time is limited with work in the way. So let's actually talk about these enclosures. So currently I'm using glass to basically, you know, make these enclosures, using some 3D parts to basically hold the glass door, the ventilation, and things like that. So it's not cheap, it's very expensive, but I didn't want to settle with acrylic because I am not a big fan of acrylic. Because one, when it gets too hot or too humid, acrylic does tend to warp and bend a little. and that's not really what I want for long-lasting enclosures, so that's the reason why I chose to go with glass. Now when it comes to printing out, the front door, the panels, the ventilation, I used a 3D printer, and the 3D parts was very difficult to get a hold of because, 3D printing is not my forte or my specialty. So really finding time to actually tinker with my 3D printer was the real trouble here. And this is the thing that will take time for me to figure out. But once I get it figured out, it should be fine. And no, these enclosures are not final. These are just basically the starting point of, me transitioning into glass enclosures. And I am starting out with the arboreals and obligate burrowers first for their enclosures. These tall enclosures here will be used for both the arboreals or the obligate burrowers. And then the terrestrials, I'm planning to save that for later because I think theirs will be more straightforward in comparison to, the more difficult or complicated arboreals. So that is why you're only seeing me do these arboreals as of now. Well, arboreals / obligate burrowers. And I did make these specifically for tarantula breeding, so I hope that it actually works, but I don't plan on selling these because, as I stated, they're prototypes, they're not final. Now that I mentioned the females going into glass enclosures, what about the males? So when it comes to the males, it will depend on basically if I'm going to keep them for tarantula breeding or not. So if I'm going to be using them for my own personal breeding projects, I don't mind putting them in glass enclosures, but for the majority of the males that I do have that will be going out to other tarantula breeders and hobbyists, I really don't see the need of me putting them into glass enclosures because they're not going to stay in my collection. I'm not saying I don't care for my males. I actually do like the males more than the females because males are valuable to me for those who know me and my channel, but rather, if I have a glass enclosure, I would rather use it for a female that will permanently stay in my collection rather than use it for a male that's only going to stay for a little bit and then out. So it's not that I don't care for my males, it's just that I have to be wise when it comes to using my glass enclosures as I make them as I go. Now if I have a bunch of spare glass enclosures, oh yeah, the males are going in, but as of now, since I'm only building around 10 to 20 glass enclosures a month, really got to be, very frugal what I put into them. So currently, as of now, there are two sizes for these arboreal / obligate burrower enclosures. The smaller one, which is the normal one, is around 10 inches tall, or about 25.5 centimeters tall. And then for the larger, taller ones, for the larger tarantulas, those will be around, 12 inches tall, which is about 30 centimeters tall, or about 30.5 centimeters tall, I believe, if the conversion is correct. But as I said, since I'm making these enclosures, some of these I may make it taller, wider, shorter. I'm just going to make these as I go, depending for what species I'm working with. Let's just say as of now, these are the sizes, but they may change depending on the species, the size, and what the needs are, because like I stated, I'm making these for breeding. But I do want to talk about the future. So since I'm back, I've told everybody, and I guess I'll tell you viewers as well, the goal now is that if I'm coming back, this time I'm going to lock in. So I am trying to move out to a business space and just live there, just so I can focus on tarantulas specifically and maybe pursue other careers while I'm at it, living in my workspace that is. So although I am someone that is in their mid to late 20s, stuck back at their parents' home temporarily, once I do move out to a new space, I would actually like to teach people how to breed tarantulas. Now I actually don't feel confident when it comes to teaching how to breed tarantulas through a YouTube video, and although I do show videos of me breeding tarantulas, I'm not necessarily teaching, more so of just me showing you tarantulas I'm breeding. So if I do teach on how to breed a tarantula, and specifically how to monitor and condition females and things of that nature, I really have to do it in person. I know there's a lot of people that are asking for me to basically make videos on how to breed tarantulas, the conditioning, the process, and things of that nature, but I really want people to understand that different species have different care requirements, meaning different breeding. It's like, how do I explain this? I can't generalize it because it's just not going to work that way. If I was to generalize it, the only things I can say is you introduce a male to a female, make sure the male comes out alive, and that's basically where the common things end. Everything else is really different because some species come from dry areas, others come from more wet or moist areas, and their overall care will be somewhat different from one another. Yes, some species may come from similar or close relative areas, but they don't all work the same. So this is basically the reason why a lot of these tarantula breeding videos, usually the process that you'll see is basically the male and the female breeding, and basically the egg sac and opening it. You don't really see what happens in between that time, and this basically goes for, I would say, basically every tarantula YouTube channel, including Dave's Little Beasties as well, which is not a bad thing, but it's just more of like the boring stuff that nobody wants to see, which is why we kind of just don't show it. This is also one of the reasons why I would like to teach in person better, because then I know you're actually dedicated. And I know some people are asking if I'm going to do like a paid lesson or a masterclass when it comes to breeding tarantulas, but to me personally, I don't think, it doesn't feel right to me honestly. I think I will teach for free, but I have conditions. One, I would like to only teach one person at a time, just so I can basically focus on that one person and just making sure that they come out with what they need. And two, I have to teach the right person. I don't think it's a bad idea to make a lot of information public, but I do think that when it comes to some specific information, I do think that you have to choose the right people just to be safe, because you don't really know what people's intentions are. Although there are mostly good people out there, it really just takes one bad person to ruin it, and I really want to choose the right people. But overall though everyone, I'm officially back, and yeah, I'm not too worried about regrowing my collection because I think that's actually the easy part. The real difficult part is really just breeding again and building these new class enclosures for my female tarantulas that is going to be used for breeding. And that's really all the difficulty that comes with it. The market itself, it's up in airs. Some days it goes up, other days it goes down. And for those who are wondering, as always everyone, I'm the Kumo Sensei, Laxow here, and I'm always going to be in shape. So it's not a big deal honestly. I'm fine, I'm healthy, I'm just need to pick myself up again. And luckily, that part is the easy part. But as always everyone, thanks for watching, and yeah, Laxow out.